Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone in between, Jason, welcome back to Get Into Rush. So, no cold open. So, I'm doing a proper intro here because this is episode 2 of my Get Into Rush video series. You might have noticed last week I uploaded a video talking about the best of budget decks to play in Rush. Now, as a follow-up, I'd like to go into a little more detail on something I talked about in that last video. If you're familiar with my channel, you know when a new update comes out for Rush, I usually do tier lists about the best upcoming decks, the best current decks, and the best staples. Now, in my previous video, I talked about just, including the same staples in every single deck we were building. However, I would like to expand on that here by going over what staples you should buy now that will be good in the future. So this isn't about what's good in the current format. This is what you should be aiming to buy first with your gems. These are a decent amount of gems. We're just going to go over all the available special sets, and from there I'll go over if you should be purchasing them now or wait till later. So let's kick it over to the game and get started. So here we are. So we're just going to start right here from the bottom with the first set that came out, the Summon Skull set. First of all, no, just don't buy this at all. I'm not familiar if there's any kind of like themed deck coming eventually that's going to need Summon Skull. I doubt it, to be honest. So don't bother with the Summon Skull. Next, Widespread Ruin. Hey, if I've taught you anything in my videos, it is you must either play Widespread Ruin or Negate Attack. So if you're interested in a deck that is playing a limited 2 card, you buy Widespread. Negate Attack is limited 2, so you cannot play Negate Attack in that deck. You should play Widespread instead. If you're watching this and you're not really familiar with the way Rush kind of functions, you're just using this video series to get into Rush. But the reason why you want to play Widespread or Negate Attack is because Rush is very battle phase centric. It's very important to be winning battle and to be making sure your opponent cannot kill you. And that's where Widespread and Negate Attack come into play. I should mention, by the way, so with these bundle deals, these special sets, you do get packs from the newest set along with the special card. So sometimes, you might want to like hold off on buying a specific pack until the current main pack is one you want. Monster Reincarnation. So this one's actually pretty good. I would say maybe consider if you're playing a deck that has a maximum monster, or if you're looking to build Material, which is a pretty decently powerful deck for the format. Monster Reincarnation is a mandatory include in that deck, which is why I'm saying if you want to build Materion, you should be buying this card. As well, it's pretty good on its own. If you're playing a warrior deck, there's other options, but any other deck where there's like a really, really key card you need in your hand to use, go ahead, Monster Reincarnation, get that card for yourself. Notably, it's also pretty good for the discard effect. So I've used Monster Reincarnation sometimes actually just to discard like a specific card. So if I'm playing a deck where I'm trying to reborn a big monster for free rather than tribute some of them, I would Monster Reincarnation, send it, get a little guy out of the graveyard, and then special the bigger monster from the graveyard. Barrel Dragon. So this was really good early in Rush. This was actually a meta include for the Light Machine deck when it was meta, I believe 4 formats ago. And the way they've kind of shook up the ban list, we don't really play Barrel Dragon in that deck anymore. So I would definitely say no to Barrel Dragon, ever, really. You don't play him in Sidra. You don't even play him in Light Machine anymore. You don't play him in Earth Machine. Sword and Shield's strange. So this one isn't a legend card. It's just a limited 1 trap card. And it could kind of find a place in decks like Celestial Warrior, the Warrior Fusion deck, or like Yami Ruler. But it ends up being not particularly great. Yeah, it would help you win combat sometimes, but you might end up in a situation where it's actually not that good, and it's limited 1, so you might accidentally run up against this conflicting with a key card in your strategy. So now you've just completely wasted your gems buying this card when your strategy already has a limit 1. Cybertech Alligator here. This is actually a pretty interesting card. So when Barrel Dragon got restricted out of being played in Light Machine with the rebounds of its skill, Cybertech Alligator took its place as a 2500 machine monster. As well, Harpies also plays the card, but that's pretty much it. It's a 1 tribute 2500, which is pretty good, but the free Ancient Gear Golem you get for just missions is much better than this guy, even like the other guy's 2 tribute. Tribute to the Doomed. This card's probably always going to be relevant. With the release of Pot of Greed coming soon as I record this video, Tribute is pretty much one of the most common legend spells played in the game. I would say definitely consider picking this one up. It discards, which is pretty good if you have a bad card in your hand or you just need to empty your hand, and destroys a monster for free. Hey, that's pretty good. There are other cards that people kind of play over this, but if you just want like kind of like a catch-all kind of card, this is a good one. Archfiend Soldier is a 1900 level 4. If you are playing a deck that locks to Fiends, which I think Royal Rebels might, don't quote me on that one, but I think Royal Rebels might lock you to Fiends, you'd probably want him for that. But also, maybe don't buy. I don't think he's worth the $9.50. Buffered Slime. Buffered Slime. This is my goat. This is my man. This is my boy. Mandatory. Mandatory to have this card for most decks. Now, there are some newer decks currently in the meta that pretty much ignore this guy, because as you might notice from the effect, when his opponent's level 8 or lower, monster declares an attack. So decks like Metarion and decks like Psychics, they have their big boss monsters, which are level 9s. Rough. Very rough. However, Slime is pretty much relevant for every other situation and every other deck. Of course, you can't use it against Ancient Gear Golem, but hey, Slime keeps you alive. And that's what matters. Forever Freeze! Don't buy this. Do not. No. Nope. No. Do not. No. 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 It has very... Listen. I'll be real. There are some corner cases where this card can be good. However, it's not going to come up enough where you want to actually run this card. I could, in one of my videos, I just rattled off like all the kind of like targets in the meta for this thing, right? It was one of my tier lists for like staple. It's not worth it. It's not worth it because it says when your opponent normal summons a monster. Well, the meta is fusion summoning right now, buddy. Not normally. Could be good against Dark Galaxy, but that's not the #1 most represented deck in the meta. That belongs to Cyber Dragon, or Metarion, or Psychics. All decks where this is bad against. Do not buy it. Listen, this is Negate Attack. This is my goat. If you are getting into Rush and you want to buy a staple, you buy Negate Attack. This is the card. The card you must be playing. If you're playing a deck with a limit 2, I'm not saying, oh yeah, throw that deck out the window because you need to play Negate Attack. No, I'm saying in those situations, that's when you play Widespread Ruin instead. I'm saying though, any other deck in the game you're playing, if you were playing just one trap card, it is Negate Attack. The Warrior Returning to Life. Okay, so you can kind of put Warrior Returning to Life in kind of the same group as Monster Reincarnation. It's basically the same thing, except it doesn't discard, and you gotta be on Warriors. So if you're looking to build a Warrior deck, like, it's kind of a no-brainer that you need this card. Obviously, like I just said, you can play Reincarnation instead, but why not take advantage of the good cards Warrior gets? This is free in Warriors. This is just free in Warriors. So if you're building a Warrior deck, if you want to play Hero, Hero's a lot of fun. I'll be real. I love playing Heroes, and they're only going to get more support as the time passes. Why not play Warrior Returning Alive? Burst Stream of Destruction. It's not even a mandatory include Blue Eyes, if I'm being real. Like, yeah, you could play it, but it's not mandatory. If you are playing like a Blue Eyes deck, sure, you can pick it up, but I wouldn't recommend playing Blue Eyes right now, so take that to as you would. Buy it if you want to play Blue Eyes, but it's not that important for the deck. It is just a one-of. Traple's interesting. So obviously if you're picking trap hole, that means you're not playing widespread or negate deck, which I think is really bad. And it doesn't come up against decks like Sidra that often and Tarion at all, really. It's kind of like in a world where we didn't have negate attack or widespread, I'd be telling you to buy this 100% of the time. But we don't live in that world. So let's be real, you don't need this. You don't need this at all. Maybe if negate or widespread gets banned, you can pick this up. Or if you're playing a deck that legitimately cannot play the other two, you'd pick this up instead. But it's just fine in the current, not even the current meta, it's just fine. Why would you settle for just fine when there is an absurdly broken trap card that you could play instead, you know? I mean, if you're just gonna play the most represented deck in the game, you need Cyber Assault no matter what, you know? This is one of the most important cards in Cyber Dragon. If you're gonna play the #1 most represented deck on the ranked ladder, you need this. If you want to play Cyber Dragon, you need to buy this pack. You get 2 of these Cyber Assault Dragons, and every Sidra player worth their salt is playing both of them in their deck. It's kind of like a mandatory purchase. Pot of Avarice is interesting. So beforehand, when everyone was just picking up like Tribute to the Doom, they're playing that in every deck. But after the release of Pot of Avarice, this is pretty recent. This is a pretty recent like release. If you're not familiar, a lot of people have been switching to Avarice because we've hit like this kind of like fever pitch of decks that function by milling a lot. So you're milling a lot of your resources. And previously people would play things like Talismanic Seal Array in their decks to like put everything back and go attack. But Pot of Avarice functions differently because it puts the 5 back, and you know, does Pot of Greed, you draw 2 cards. So Avarice ends up being a little more interesting where you're putting the cards back and then you're thinking, I might draw those cards. You know, if you're playing a deck that, let's say you're just playing a deck that's on Ancient Gear Golem, you're like, oh, they added my Golem, what do I do now? Well, the trusty Pot of Avarice says, put him back. Maybe you'll draw him. I think you should definitely purchase this because you need 1 legend spell, 1 legend trap, 1 legend monster. If you don't feel like playing Tribute, you should definitely pick up Pot of Avarice. Now, I know Pot of Greed was announced as of recording. Pot of Greed was announced. It is coming, but that's going to be a free card, which of course you could obviously play Pot of... It's Pot of Greed. Of course you can play Pot of Greeds for free. But Avarice might end up being more useful because in Rush, monsters are your resource. It's kind of like we have a mana system, right? Where we have to keep a certain amount of monsters in rotation and on the field to actually do anything. So Pot of Avarice just gets you all your resources back. If you're... Okay, this is for any Illustrials players that are out. Pot of Avarice is just Ambrosia. It's just Ambrosia, right? The Illustrials players will understand. The Illustrials player will understand. That's all I gotta say about Pot of Avarice. It's really good. You should definitely pick it up if you don't have a Legend spell picked out already. And this video is going to be much shorter than the last one. We're already on our last card. The brand new Rice Terrace Crisis. I would honestly say you should probably pick up this card. It's all right in the current meta. It's not 100% always going to hit on decks like Cyber Dragon, but it's good against Batarion. It's good against Psychic, and it could be game-ending against both Dark Galaxy and Light Galaxy. This card, I believe, is specifically to counter those 2 decks. It completely washes any deck that's playing Secret Order as well. The opponent, the Dark Galaxy opponent, going Trancer, Tribute herself, summon a big level 8, and you go, cool, Rice Terrace, flip the 8, flip a 4, devastating. That is pretty much just setting you up for a game shot after that. It's literally just like, all right, time to end it. And hey, we're through all bundles that exist right now. There are way more in speed, but oh my god, there are so many in speed. But thankfully we were able to get these rush ones done pretty quickly. Now obviously there are more staples that are just like locked into boxes, and if I wanted to go over all those, we'd be here for a while. Check out my tier list if you want to see more about the box staples. But I hope this could help newer players figure out which of these 950 gem investments they should be making to really get into Rush. Thanks for watching. See you later.